Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Heather Jean here. I am joined by the gorgeous Joyan Chan, and I'm so excited that you're here.
Me too. I'm so glad that I can join you. For me it's 8 p.m. now, so sorry I'm a bit tired. If
You
just
don't
yeah.
need to be sorry. It's mid-afternoon here. And that's the beautiful thing about this. It's like you can watch it on replay, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to plug in my headphones.
Actually, me too. Let me put my headphones.
Sometimes there's like a reverb thing. So there we go. That should solve it. That should solve it. Yeah. So I'm just checking that we are live in the community. Yes, we are. We are. We are. Amazing. So we've spoken before all about your confidence coaching practice. Are you okay? Can you hear me? Oh, now I can't hear you. We're doing this, but I can't hear you, but that's fine.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yes.
Hello.
Because I just plugged in my earphones, so I have to change the setting. So yeah, no worries.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing with live. It's like, yeah, we just do that. Yeah.
This is live,
So
yes.
I'm going to have coffee. I know it's 8 p.m. where you are, so you probably
I'm
shouldn't.
having water, just plain water. I wish I
Nice.
can have champagne, but I couldn't.
Well, it's evening. It's evening. Anything goes. So we kind of met twice, which I love, because we were talking about finding our why and really getting deep down into the whys. And then we
Yeah.
met because we're both confidence coaches, and it
Yes.
was like, oh, we've met before. And then we had to have a conversation. So it was
Yes.
wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your coaching practice.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm not sure I can't see everyone, but yeah, so we are not able to see who joined us live, right? Yeah. Just
Sometimes we can. Most of the people are in bed right now because it's North American time, and who knows?
okay.
But they'll
All
see
right.
us when they see us.
Yeah, and it's holiday for them, so that would be a yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm Joyan Chan, and so I call myself a self-image empowerment coach. So I help people to build their own positive, confident, and empower self-image. So I'm not sure how many of you familiar with the idea of self-image. So I just want to talk a little bit more about like what exactly is self-image, right? Because we may heard of the term before, but we don't really know what does it mean. So self-image is it's not the external image. So we all have an image of ourselves, the mental image that we have about ourselves. So self-image is not the external image, although my background is actually fashion. So I was working, with people on their external image. I was a stylist, I was a designer, and but then what led me down the path of coaching and help people to build their confidence and all that is because I was, my story. So while working in the fashion industry, I was depressed. On the outside world, I only show people, this perfect image of me because of what I do, right? I thought that I had to show people, the perfect image of me. So I hide myself behind this image that I created for myself. But it was me, I'm not saying I was faking it. I'm not saying, it wasn't me. It was just one side of me. So I have two, I would say, I had there were two sides of me. I was living in two different worlds, completely different worlds. So on the outside world, I was this, happy, outgoing, confident, successful woman. But on the inside world, I was depressed. I lost myself completely. Um, so yeah, I was struggling with depression for years. I would say without really knowing that it was depression. I thought I was just like being emotional. Like most of my friends said, they would just say, just being emotional, like stop crying, stop being a baby. So yeah, so I realized, so it was a huge wake-up call when I realized, I was depressed. I actually was diagnosed with depression when I went to see a therapist. So eventually, I got hooked on this calling to just tell my story. Like, I just want to show up as a real me. Like this is me. This is a real me. I just want to show the vulnerable, the authentic. Yeah. So that was how I started my coaching business, because I realized I had to show people, the full package of me, not just what I want them to see, not just what I think they will like, but I just want to be myself. So basically, yeah, that was how I started. So now I'm just helping people, on this, to guide them on this journey as well, to help them reconnect to their true authentic self, without worrying about, what other people might think, and what people might say about me if I do this, I do that, the fear of judgment and everything. So I help them to overcome that, all their false belief about themselves, how they feel about themselves, to help them improve their own relationship with themselves, right? Because that is very important, because your relationship, you are the one, that's what I always say, you are the one you are your longest commitment. You are the one you are committed to spending the rest of your life with. So you might as well learn how to enjoy your own company and be your own best friend instead of your own worst enemy. Like we talk to ourselves like, we are our own worst enemy. We our internal dialogue can be extremely negative sometimes. Yeah, so that's what I do. I help them to overcome all these fear and limiting beliefs they have about themselves, and now I guide them through this journey that I have personally went through. So yeah, there's just a brief story of what I do and why I'm so passionate about it.
And I love how aligned we are, in terms of, kind of having this outside image of this is how I appear to the world, and then feeling very different inside. And I think that's such a relatable story. And I love that you share that, because it's very vulnerable, and it's just so wonderful that you're out there sharing it. And you used a word, I just do this. And I'm like, no, 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 this is important work. Like, this
Yeah,
is wonderful work. And I think that being able to share that kind of normalizes that, because if we experience this, we're we're thinking we're the only ones, we're thinking, oh, well, everybody else seems to have it together. But I don't know why we would assume that, because if we're feeling like we're different inside than we are on how we appear in the world, then why would we believe that that's only us?
yeah, because actually I think it has to do with the society as well. Like we are being told that we are not enough, we are not perfect since young. And so we have this tendency to compare ourselves to others, like especially on social media nowadays. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
why.
How much do you think that message around needing to be perfect, and we're not perfect, and not measuring up, and how much do you think that's created by the culture that we grow up in? I mean, there's lots of cultures. There's family culture and business culture and all these things. But how much, and even geographical culture, how much do you think that we're shaped by that?
Well, I believe it has to do with your own family, like the people you spend time with, because growing up, that's when you shape your own belief, your identity, and everything, right? Growing up, so the people you spend time with, or your family culture, I would say, is a primary factor, because um like your family, let's say your mom is, if she is loving towards you, or she said, because since young we are trained that we have to seek approval from others. Like for example, I score well in exam, then I would go to mommy, see, I got this, and then mommy will say, good girl, well done, you are my
Yeah.
girl, that kind of thing. So we thought that was how we should behave, in order to be loved and accepted. I have to be smart, I have to be pretty, I have to be I don't know, perfect. So one of the things that I teach also is your own condition of worth. Like, what do you need to be in order to be loved and accepted? So yeah, and that's a big part, because, or if we didn't score well, then mommy or daddy would probably say, most parents, I believe, would probably say, you didn't do a good job, or they will get punished, for some cases, right? So that's how we learn as well. In order to be loved, I have to be this, I have to be that. So growing up as an adult now is already conditioned in our own system, so it's quite hard to break, but we have to be aware of them first and foremost. That is how we basically overcome everything. You have to be first aware of what condition of worth or limiting beliefs that you have that is not true, but you believe they are true, right? Like in order to be loved, I have to, I don't know, be whatever that I have to be, right?
Yeah, and I think, what we often don't realize is that we're not only limited by our own limiting beliefs, we're limited by those that we were, grew up with. We're limited by their limiting beliefs. Like I see it so clearly now what my mother's limiting beliefs were, and why those are passed on to me, and how I've then used that. And when we made the Beat Your Imposter webinar, we did like a training for it, and we came up with like a long list. It was over 20 strategies for, how to help yourself really feel authentic and get over that. You never really get over it, but how to kind of take control of that imposter voice. And the reparenting strategy is by far my favorite. And yet nobody tells us that when you grow up, you'll need to reparent yourself. You'll need to talk to yourself in ways that are supportive and nurturing and helpful. And, and I think for a lot of us, our parents didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they do the best that they can. And then and then nobody tells us, and nobody shows us how. And that's why, confidence coaching is such an important thing.
Yes.
And then that limits us and stops us from doing the things that we know are inside of us and that we want to do and that we're driven to do. Like, for example, Joyan, starting a podcast.
Oh, I didn't see that coming. Good one, yeah.
So when Joanne and I talked, we were talking about the Confidence to Cabaret, the podcast, and then Joanne shared that she would always like to do a podcast, and one day she will. And I was like, no, we're doing this now. Like, this has to start. Yes. So, and you did.
Yes, I was getting coached by you. So the last time we talked. So yeah, I did, and it's actually. So do you want me to talk about my podcast now? Yeah, so
I would love you to talk about your podcast. I haven't heard about it. I mean, you've told me that you launched it, but I want to know, like, what happened? Like, we talked, and you were like, "Okay, I'm going to do it," and then next thing, I got a message saying, "I've done it."
Yeah, so because I'm a coach myself, so I have to do what I taught. Well, I teach people, So yeah, and so I always have. Having a podcast is always the goal that I have in my mind. And I know this year that I'm going to do it no matter what. But I've been like procrastinating, it's just normal thing, right? We have to make sure everything is perfect. I need to get this, I need to have that, or I need to have, I don't know, a guest list, then I can launch my podcast. So a lot of things are going on in my mind, but it's all because of fear that we all know, right? That was holding us back. So I was like, after talking to you, it was like 3-4 weeks ago, I guess, not that long. It was enough. I froze.
Yeah, it was only a few weeks ago.
Can you see me? Because I froze in the screen.
I can hear you, but you are frozen.
Okay.
But it's fine. It's fine. I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm moving because...
You're frozen.
That is weird. Okay.
It is weird. And that doesn't normally happen with StreamYard, actually.
Yeah. So what should we do now? Should I continue?
Well, yeah, carry on, and then we'll just, it'll unfreeze. It sorts itself out usually. So we talked a few weeks ago, and I said to you, just do it. Like, you don't need all that. And then what happened?
Okay. Let me make sure my internet is stable. Just give me a minute.
Well, in the meantime, hello. I'm here. And so is Geneva. So is the beautiful Geneva. Thank you for joining us.
Oh.
So we're talking about self-image, and we're talking about, that kind of, growing up with conditioning that tells us that in order to be loved and deserving of love, we have to have certain things, and it leads us to a place where, we have self-limiting beliefs and we have fear, and it really can hold us back. And I think, when you think about something, to me, as simple as a podcast, it's like, just do it. And so when Joyan said that she wanted to start a podcast and hadn't yet, it was like, yeah, just do it. Oh, and Joyan's left. I'm sure she'll join us back again in a second. But I think that's what we wanted to discuss today, is that part about, when you want to do something, you think that you have to get everything in line. You think that you have to make it perfect. You think that you have to, have everything ready. And actually, sometimes it's just about showing up and taking the leap and doing the thing. And so, to me, a podcast is a very simple thing to start. If anybody wants to start one and hasn't kind of got their head around it yet, then I don't know what I'm doing technology wise, but I'm always happy to help. But I think it's just so important to think about what it is that you want to do, and then figuring out what your first step is. Don't worry about like the whole how, like everybody keeps saying this, but it is so true. And so, I think when you know what's right for you and you start taking the steps, then it just happens. And so when Joyan joins us, and she is about to rejoin us, she's working on her internet, then I think it's that. And I just was so excited when within a few weeks Joyan said, I started a podcast, it's happening, and it's something I wanted, and now I'm doing it. And I think that it's so funny how we think that we're the only one. Not funny, haha, but funny, difficult to think that we're the only one, and I love the story that goes with this. And I also, I'm so happy, Geneva, for you sharing that you've just uncovered a huge one that you didn't actually believe that you have, and it was rooted and hidden there, that deep fear, that overthinking, that stops us from doing what we know is right. Hi, Joyan.
Sorry, I think it was my camera. So
well,
it never happened before. It never happened to me before. So you are the first one.
I don't worry about this stuff. It's like, okay, so you popped out, so what? Like,
Yeah.
It's fine. So okay, so tell us about your podcast then. So you just you just did it, right? You just found a guest. I mean, we talked about it. It's like, oh, there's loads of guests. Just go find one. And what happened?
Yeah, so I was able to hear what you just said the entire time while I was away, but I was able to hear you. So starting my podcast, so I decided that this year I'm going to do my podcast no matter what. And then I was like trying to get the right microphone, trying to get my guest list or cover art, where do I launch my podcast, what platform to use, blah blah blah. So all these things that was holding me back. But then I decided to go, just do it. Like what you said, I was asking you for some advice, I remember, and you said just do it, just do it, just freaking do it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I was like, okay, so what do I need to do now? Like, okay, get a cover art. Like everything just fall into place. Like all of a sudden, like, okay, it's not that hard. I did my cover art. I recorded my first episode. I recorded my trailer. I got my music. Everything just like happened in like 2 days. Within 2 days, it was just like that. I was like, okay, now it's real. So I scheduled my podcast, and it's not launched yet. It's going to it's launched, but my first episode will only come out in this week, Wednesday. I think I froze again.
Yeah, it's fine. Right. We can hear you.
Oh my god, I hate this thing. Anyway,
it's fine.
Let me just try to change camera. I'm not sure whether it's my camera.
There it is. I can see you.
Yeah, but this is it's not that clear.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's better than So yeah, and my first episode gonna be gonna launch this Wednesday, coming July 7th. So that would be my first episode. And if you are interested, my podcast is, guess what? My name is Find Joy with Joyan. So I was like, da you know, that was the name that I always had in mind. Like I knew my podcast is going to call Find Joy with Joyan. And yeah, everybody loves the name. And so anyway, so yeah, you can Google, you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere. Basically, just type in my name. Yeah, you will be able to find me there and subscribe if you want to. So every week I will, I will just do one episode, and sometimes me, sometimes with guests, my friends like you. Yeah, I'm gonna invite you to be on my podcast one day. So yeah.
I would be so honored. I love that Find Joy, and I love that we share that same kind of message about that sometimes it's painful to go through that fear to find that joy.
Yes.
And I think I was preparing the masterclass that we've just put up on our website today. Actually, it just arrived, and I was we were talking about personal brand, and we were talking about how you come across authentic and how you're unique and how and I think the message for me was that bit about it's okay to show up and be vulnerable and be in pain and be afraid, and really we have to go through that in order to get to that place of joy. Otherwise, we're back to where you and I have both been, which is pretending that we're great and, having this,
you
what
too?
I would call stage. Oh, very much so. Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, to the point for me where I would be invited to be places because it would be so much fun if you were there. And so I always had to show up as the fun one. And I have a couple of close friends who I would say, I don't want to be the fun one. Like I kind of don't want to go because I don't have the energy to be the fun one. And yet I always showed up as the fun one, and I felt it. I mean, it wasn't fake. It was me, but it wasn't the only part of me. Do you know? It was
Exactly.
a part of me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit, is when you have people around you, when you can share that message where, it's okay to share that point of, I'm not feeling joy right now, but I recognize that I have to go through this in order to find joy on a long lasting basis.
Yeah.
And I ignored it all. In fact, I didn't know, like you, I didn't know until lockdown that I had any of these things. I just thought I was just this all the time. And people used to say, because I have corporate clients, so I'm all in those situations I'm on stage, right? Like I am on stage while I'm working, and I would never be invited to share that vulnerability. And people used to say, how are you like this all the time? And I'd say, yes, I'm like this all the time. And I was always busy. Okay. Always busy. Like when I wasn't working, I had other things to do. I managed a children's rugby team for over 10 years. I, have my aerial and cabaret dance. I, have I used to have a social life. And so I always was busy. And what I found out during the lockdowns is that I was avoiding the question, how do I feel?
Yes.
Like that for me is the worst question, because if you're going to get honest about it, if you're going to work through those fears, if you're going to feel those feelings, that's the route to joy.
Yes. I feel you, because I was the same. It was because of the lockdown that I had to face my depression, because I literally felt like everything was being taken away from me. We are so similar. We are very much similar in the sense that we have a similar background and our journey as well. So I was also this, fun, I always bring joy to others. That's what I always say. But I just couldn't bring joy to myself. And so yeah. So I was afraid. I was also finding, running away from myself, finding things to numb myself. I was always running away from myself, from answering the question like what you just said, how do I really feel about myself? So yeah, I was like running away, escaping, and until lockdown, I had to face it no matter what, and I didn't know how. So that was how I broke through it, and found myself again, found my joy again. So yeah,
So how did you do that, Joyan?
I wanted to ask you the same.
Hey?
So how did I do that? Like you say, we had to went through all the pain. Just have to go through it. Just feel it, and really being honest with yourself, like being real with where you are, and knowing what you really want and who you really are. Like, why are you even here? There was a question I asked myself: why am I even here? Like, I don't even want to be here, but why? I'm still here. There must be a reason. I believe we all have a purpose and for being here, and we all have a message we all have a gift, to give to the world. So yeah, I figured that my gift was to tell my stories. I was like struggling. I thought no one wants to hear my story. Like, who cares? I thought everyone wants to hear. No one wants to talk about depression and stuff. But I thought, I just want to be real to myself. That was what my intuition was asking me to do. Like, just tell your story, just show up, don't hide anymore. Don't hide behind this image anymore, right? Just let people see the real you. And when I did that, it was free. Like, I finally get to be myself. I don't have to care what people think. Like, what is the worst that can happen, right? So yeah, that was how I finally did. I just show up. And actually, I don't want to talk about this part whereby I was like thinking of ending my own life and stuff like that. It would be quite heavy for today. But yeah, I was like thinking of ending my own life, but I couldn't do it. So it was the same. It was at the same time when I was asking myself, why am I here? Why am I even here when I don't even want to be here? Then but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't, and I beat myself up, by saying I'm such a failure. You can't even end your own life as such a failure. And it was a huge wake up call for me, because at the moment I was like, if you can't die today, Joyan Chan, you got to live your life, right? If you can't die today, then the only choice you have is to live your life. And if you want to live your life, you got to live your life to the fullest.
Yeah,
this is enough. So yeah, it was that story. It's always emotional when I tell this part of my story, but yeah, it was the true story of why I am who I am today.
yeah. And I love that you say, what's the worst that could happen? Because when you get to that stage where you're so low, then there isn't anything worse that can happen. And I think it's heartbreaking to know that you have to get to that stage sometimes. And I love the comments that are coming in. Katie and Geneva are with us, and just sharing how beautiful it is. And it is the storm before the sunshine. It really is. And I agree. I'm so glad that you're here, and that you have this message to share, and this gift to share, and that you want to help others do the same. I mean, that's really what it's all about, right? That's how we met, was, let's figure out the why thing, and not just sit there and go, why 7 times, but actually,
we didn't do that actually.
I know we will do that. I promise. Because when we met, we just had so much to say, because we had met in 2 different ways. And so we needed to do it. But I think the other interesting thing is, now, if we had talked about the whys before, it would have been a little bit different, because now you've faced what you wanted. You have your podcast channel, and I know Geneva sharing that, even like a YouTube channel for people. I think that, our why evolves. Maybe the root real cause evolves. But when I was preparing the personal branding webinar for our website, I went back to that why exercise. Mm-hmm. And I realized that my why is entirely different, because my why used to be all about being able to do what I wanted to do with my family and with my children. And now my children are grown up. So my why has completely shifted, and I think that evolution in our life is so important. It's so beautiful to be able to witness it and to be able to follow it through. If I'm really honest with you, I have never considered ending my own life, but I have wished that it would end. And I think that being able to share that and for people to know that that's okay, as long as there's support, as long as there's a reason, as long as your why is there, then, and that's why we started Confidence Through Cabaret, right? It was for people to be able to be seen, for people to be able to show up.
Yeah.
I'm still getting my head around this showing up thing. Like, I can show up online, I can show up on YouTube, I can show up on podcast, I can show up in my work life, and I can show up in my personal life much more authentically now. But I'm going to go on stage next month and do 2 cabaret burlesque performances next month.
Where?
Oh, in the UK. In the
Oh
UK,
my
I will
goodness.
post pictures. Oh my goodness,
Please,
I
please,
am
please. Yeah.
freaking out.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, like, how did you even get into cabaret? Like, what was your story?
Because I felt like, so I'm big, right? I'm there. I'm like doing these conferences and, completely like traveling all over the world on my own. And, I'm doing that, no problem. But I knew that there was that disconnect between who I really was and who I was appearing to the world as. I knew that was there, right? I knew that 4.5 years ago when I started. But I woke up one day and I knew I needed to do cabaret because I knew that I was shrinking. I was physically, and every time I say that about shrinking, not only, but especially women say, "Oh, I know that feeling. I know that feeling of wanting to be smaller." So here I am, the loudest person in any room, and yet I was inside myself shrinking. Yeah, I'm loud and I'm big, but I'm shrinking because I knew I wasn't able to show up in all the ways that I am. And so I went to a cabaret class. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Cannot tell you. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run. I just hated it because it meant that I had to take up space.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you, Joyan. I had like a scarf. I don't have a scarf near me, which is odd. But I had a scarf and we had to like take up space and waft this scarf. And I couldn't do it. I held onto it like this and went like this.
Okay.
And it's so crazy. And I was like, this is insane. Like I'm even making my scarf small. Like, this makes no sense. And so I knew I had to learn that. I knew I had to learn for showing up and for people to not be okay with me. Like I'd never experienced that, right? Like I always had to make everybody okay with me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I knew I needed to learn. And then it just went from there. And I learned that it's about finding your voice, which comes from your why. I learned that it's about, sharing a story or a narrative or a part of you that is so vulnerable. And when you talk about burlesque, like it's not only, it's not always stripping. It's not only about stripping, but it can be. And when you're telling a story and you're telling that story with your whole body, it is vulnerable.
Yes, it is.
And I learned that vulnerability because of cabaret, which is why we use that foundation and that showing up in a really authentic way. And if people aren't there for you, then that's okay. What I did also learn is that if you're in a show and the audience is watching, they don't want you to do badly, just like with your podcast or people who have YouTube channels. Nobody wants you to do badly. Nobody's watching to go, haha, how will you fail today? It's like, it's not even rational. Those people tend not to show up, and if they do, then they're easy to block. But it's like it's people are genuinely there because they want to see you succeed, because they want to connect with your message, because they want to connect with your energy.
And you wouldn't know, in their head, they might be like, wow, she had all the confidence in the world. I wish I could be like her. You know, but in our mind, it's like, oh my gosh, he's judging me. He's thinking I'm not pretty, you know. So it's a totally, different conversation that we had in our mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
crazy.
And Katie's saying here in the comments about it's amazing how our weaknesses can become our defining strengths. Cannot agree
Yeah,
more. Cannot agree more, because oftentimes, like our weaknesses that we really don't have passion and joy for, then we can let those go. We can outsource those. We can, take a
yeah,
different path. But the weaknesses that mean something, we persevere through those.
yeah.
And
Actually, it also depends on how you define your weaknesses. You know, some people might say, okay, being emotional is a weakness, but it's not. You know, it can be a strength, right? So it's
yeah.
about the definition that you put on your on yourself, like your weakness and strength and all that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love that you just said that. I'm going to say this again. How do you, yeah,
Define, yeah.
how, how you define your weaknesses? Because often that comes back to fear, doesn't it? Like we're afraid that our weaknesses make us not enough, and
Make
actually
it
they're our
small. Yeah.
strengths.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I'm writing this in the comments right now.
Sure, I'm not able to comment. That's weird. Anyway, because I guess I'm a guest.
Oh, you are more than welcome to comment. There's
But I
beautiful things in these comments.
oh, you're doing it on Facebook, is it?
Yeah, we're on
Ah,
Facebook.
I see, I see, I
Yeah.
see.
But
Yeah, no
you can
worries.
see them in the comments. There's a comment
Yes.
column. You can see what's going on. You can see that. So, Joyan, I know it's late for you. I know that you you need to go and have your evening.
Oh, it's
Um,
okay. Yeah.
but
I'm
but my
having fun here. I don't
and
mind.
we, you know what, and we, I know. Well, and that's kind of what it's all about. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about joy, right?
Yeah.
So, it should feel good. It should
Yeah.
feel good. My dad always says, if it feels good, do it. I'm not sure that that's always good advice, but it's often good advice. If it feels
Yes.
good, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm really excited for you with your podcast. I cannot wait to listen this week to your
Oh,
to your podcast, and I just know that it'll go from strength to strength. I also know it'll turn into a whole YouTube channel, and it'll turn into a whole thing. We haven't even discussed that yet.
now you're giving me ideas. Oh my god, that you know. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I love being connected with you, and I think all of us in this community, all of us in this space, it's not a coincidence that we connect. It's not a coincidence that we need the messages when we need them. They appear. We find the people that come into our lives, and in your case, I found you twice in two different ways.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
No
being
worries.
here and for sharing your story.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having me.
much for being open. It's a real gift to us to be able to share that with you. And there are some amazing comments. So when you get a few minutes, have a look through the
Sure.
comments. But I thank you to everybody that's listening for sharing your points of view, for reinforcing the things that we're discussing here. And I would invite you to really kind of delve into self-image. Reach out to Joyan, reach out to me. If you want to explore it more, if you want to uh, go through any of the things that we've been through in more depth, then we're here for you. And that's why we're a community, right?
Yeah. We are here to support one another. Yeah.
Exactly, that's the point, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me today.
No
I've
worries.
absolutely loved having you here.
Thank
We
you.
always end our, and I know that this isn't a podcast, but I've got to ask you anyway, because
Okay.
I
It's
need
all
to
serious,
know.
right?
No, I
Okay.
do. I need to know. So,
Oh.
and so if you were doing a cabaret performance of any kind, and remember the cabaret can be like comedians are cabaret, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Singing, lip syncing, dancing, burlesque. Very often there's aerial equipment involved. Anything that connects with cabaret. If you were doing a cabaret performance, what one prop would you want to have with you?
Wow. what are the options?
Well,
What do you
you
want
can have
before?
anything. I mean, literally anything. I had
Wow.
somebody, one of the guys that we had on our podcast said he would have a pen. And I really deeply relate to this because
Okay.
it's
Okay.
like it's like a weird thing. If you watch a work presentation, right?
Yeah.
And you watch the presenter, very often they'll have a pen or, sometimes it's a
Yeah.
big thick marker. And it's almost as if this pen can somehow shield you or set your kind of boundaries of like,
Mm.
don't come any closer. And I always point it out when I'm running a presentation skills program about like this pen is not going to protect you from anything really. It's a support thing. It's
Mm.
something that we connect to. Now, sometimes our props are that. Very often our props are about what we want in terms of sharing our story.
Mhm.
So for example, I will have I'm one of the pieces that I'm preparing right now for my cabaret next month is pill bottles, because I'm talking about like that narrative of needing to medicate to feel sweet and wonderful and be all the things that we're supposed to be and all of this. And so there's a kind of a narrative about that. And I'm not a medicator, but I think we all medicate in some way.
Yeah.
And so I have props like that. My main prop always is heels, because
You had to, right?
yeah, I do. I just love heels because I feel powerful in heels. And what's interesting, and the people in this community have heard me say this lots of times, but what's interesting is that we can tap into that same energy and fierceness and strength
Yeah.
without the prop anytime.
I
And
agree.
it's making that connection. So typical cabaret things are fans or feathers or boas or beautiful gloves or a chair, or you name it. You can have anything you want, one thing on stage with you. What would you want?
That was really a difficult question for me. I don't know why. Because maybe I never imagined myself doing one. And okay, let me think. Um, I, oh my
do,
god, you are
do you
putting me
like
on the
are
spot.
there things that you feel that are very pretty or very strong or very
Okay, so
comforting?
I'm not a soft and feminine type of woman. So
Right.
I'm more like a like a strong, powerful woman. So I I couldn't think of anything that is like strong that give me strength. Like makes me feel powerful or
Oh, yes. Yes, Geneva. Geneva's saying, let's give her a microphone. Yes.
maybe.
I
thanks,
love that.
thanks, thanks for giving me answer. Oh my god, yeah, maybe a microphone. Yeah, why not?
Maybe
But
a
I thought
microphone.
that was like the you were gonna have it anyway. It's not something that extra, right?
Oh, I don't have a microphone because I'm always loud. So I very rarely have a microphone.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, maybe it's about tapping into like what is it that makes us feel strong,
yeah,
and that doesn't have to be feminine and pretty things. I
yeah.
like pretty things, but so my props are, I like pretty things, but I use them in fairly aggressive ways.
Fiercely, right?
I'm not
I think
I'm
I
not a
kind of know
delicate.
you by now. The third time we are talking only, but I know you like inside out.
Yeah, yeah, I don't
Oh
do pretty
yeah,
things with
yeah.
them. I love it when people do. I adore watching, kind of traditional cabaret, but it's not me. So, it's just about kind of like what is it that helps us tap
Mm,
into the strength that we want. Okay, and I have
yeah.
one more question, and I don't want you to think about this. I just want you to answer. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, what is your stage name?
Joy.
Lovely.
Like
Just
yeah,
Joy.
yeah,
Joy.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
What
yeah.
else could I have?
No,
Yeah.
do you know what's funny? People always think about that. Like they always think, "Oh, what would that be? And I need to come up with something clever or something." Uh, no, you
Right.
don't. You already know what that kind of. It's an archetype character. It's like there is something in you that has something to say. And for you, it's joy. And I love that for you.
Yeah, me too. I didn't know they would come out, but it came out anyway.
Yeah. Yes. And Geneva saying fierce and
Fierce
heel.
in.
Yes. Yes. Love a fierce heel. Well, thank you so much for being with me today.
It was
I've
fun.
adored spending time with you.
Yeah, me
And
too.
and we will do this again, and keep us posted in the Confidence to Cabaret community on Facebook about how your podcast is going and what's going
Okay.
on, because it's inspiring to other people. Not
Right.
not everybody wants to start a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever it is. No, but it inspires people to do what they want to do, right?
Yes.
So
You don't have to
the
start a
good.
podcast if you don't want to. Yeah, just do your
No,
thing, right?
exactly. I would never have made you start a podcast if that wasn't what you said you wanted.
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you so much, Joyan.
Nice.
And I just wanted to say our now infamous tagline, because I think it's important for us to remember that it is your body, it is your world, and it is your stage.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yay! Yeah, thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
I'll see you in the group.